Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Brooke Mitchell, and today's webinar is Ecotourism in Action Lessons from the Gray Whale, presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Maru Marcias. Thank you so much for being here today, Maru. Over to you.
Thank you, Brooke. I'm super excited about this presentation after a wonderful season that we had this year and after a few months of not presenting. So, very excited. And as we were discussing, this presentation is very personal for me. So, let's just go to it. Ecotourism in action, lessons from the gray whale. So I don't like to talk about myself, but this is a very special topic for me. Basically, here you see on the left a cartoon that I did when I was 15 years old. I met the whales when I was 10, and I have been thinking about whales since that age. Basically, in the cartoon, I imagined myself as a scientist that discovered a new species of whale because, of course, you have a wide imagination when you're young. And this species was a mix between a rabbit and a whale. And so I sent this cartoon to an NGO, and I actually started working as a volunteer with an NGO when I was 15 years old. And I started doing science communication without even knowing I was doing science communication back then, helping with the volunteering. Then normal path is to go and study biology. Then I did study 1 year of science communication, and master in marine science took me to Mexico, where I met the gray whales. First, I was working with southern right whales and with whales in the Southern Ocean. So my whole life revolves around whales, and this picture that someone took, a guest took from me, is very special because it's just. I had this cartoon in my mind, but I didn't know that I even had the same color of the shirt. The shirt is one of the gears that I used during the NatHab trips, so it's a very special picture that just shows how special whales are for me and how amazing it was for me to go through these trips and become an expedition leader for natural habitat. So as I mentioned, my master took me to Mexico, and what I want to show you today is a little bit of a roadmap explaining a little bit about ecotourism and nature-based tourism, explained through my master's, actually. I'll get into that in just a minute. And then we're gonna do a very little introduction to the gray whales if you haven't met them. We're gonna talk about their current population status, all the information, the latest information that we have on their population right now. And of course, we're gonna talk about the importance of the Baja lagoons for this species, the importance of Laguna San Ignacio, where we run the trips, and through all of that, the lessons that these animals have given me in life, and that can help us to think about this subject that I'm presenting today. So yeah, it's a little bit of, I'll try to summarize lessons from 8 years of working with the gray whales. And so yeah, let's see. So a little bit about this. This is the article that got published. My article from my master thesis. It got published actually this year in February when I was on the on the gray whale trips. I found out by email, and I went straight to the breakfast with the guests and told them, and they were like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I need to call my dad, right?" So I was on the trip, but yeah, it was a very special moment that we shared, and everyone just congratulated me. If you know a little bit about the science process, is a little hard, so to get published is quite an achievement for a scientist, right? And so this is the title of my article for my master thesis. I actually studied sociobiological science in this particular subject, because my whole life I had this question, right? My idea was to think, do whales change people's lives, right? Because they changed my life, and of course that was not maybe naive, but at the same time it is not, because we're always talking about how whales are a life-changing experience. So that question turned to, do whales change people's environmental consciousness? Do whales help increase people's environmental consciousness? And I went to do that question in my master with surveys right before the activity, immediately after the activity with charismatic species like the gray whale or the whale shark, actually, and then 4 months later via email. And this is the first lesson that the gray whales have given me. It's the hardest and the most exciting at the same time. It's a very contradictory, because as you see in the title, it says charisma is not enough. So it's not just the species itself that can foster environmental consciousness, at least with the data of my research. It's also has to do with the whole context, with the whole way that you are presented with the whales. So it's not only the whales itself, but it's also how it's presented. So here it comes the what made me become a naturalist guide, actually, because I realized that we needed both things at the same time to help keep this positive impact. Because I did find positive impact on this on these experiences for the people, but this impact did not last through time. You needed to reinforce that, and it's really important that the companies that you go with are actually ecotourism companies. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. So with this research in mind, let me present you to my favorite species of whale, which is the gray whale. And here you see gray whales are funny looking. I love this picture from Lagoon Time, the Steven Schwartz book, because you can see here on here's the right side of the same whale, and this is the left side. And you can see that in this part, she doesn't have any whale lice or siamids, as we call them. And this is because she is the only species that is benthic feeding. She feeds from the bottom. So when she feeds from the bottom, she is scratching the mud, and that's how it gets released all of these barnacles. And only on the right side, because most of the individuals are right-sided. So they're a little bit like us in that way, that they are right-sided when they're feeding. um, and so, yeah, they're very particular looking. They're the only ones that feed on the bottom. They have the longest marine mammal migration of 20,000 kilometers or 10,000 miles, all the way from Alaska to the Baja lagoons. And they are one of the most comprehensively studied whales, because they go very close to the shore, and that allows us to really study them. So they are very special as a species in many, many ways. Okay. Um, and of course, another important thing is that when they arrive to Mexico, they go inside these lagoons, these coastal lagoons, where they come for mating, giving birth, and nursing their young. So if you know a little bit about whales, they feed on higher latitudes, most of the species, and then they reproduce or rest on the lower latitudes, right? So they're doing these long migrations, right? And so Baja lagoons are very, very special for them in this life cycle. And also, they're very important for all of these individuals. Even the young ones migrate, and not necessarily, they're not going to mate, they're not going to reproduce, they're not going to have babies, but still every individual of the population is migrating, and it probably has to do with this temperature that the Baja lagoons have, and this protected area that it is for them to rest and wait for the summer months to go back to feed, right? Um, so here we have a little bit of a whale spy hopping, because so this picture reminds me of how interesting it is to be inside of the lagoons and to see all these behaviors. I'm always saying, like, they are whales being whales, like they don't have predators inside of the lagoons. They are resting for the summer months. So during winter they can just be whales and do whale stuff. And this means a wide variety of behaviors like spy hopping, resting, breaching, lactating in the case of the calves, just transiting over. So there's a lot of different things that we see in the lagoons, right? So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the population. I'm going to show a small summary in 3 minutes video. And this video is going to be presented at the United Nations meeting for the oceans to explain a little bit of what's going on with this species, okay? Starts a little slow, but I'm gonna let the speaker talk a little bit and then we'll go through it point by point.
This is a gray whale. She feeds on benthic organisms that live buried in the sand in the polar waters of the North Pacific and Arctic Oceans. She tracks the sun and feeders small animals such as amphipods with her baleen. She depends on these organisms for survival. After gaining fat reservoirs during summer, she migrates in winter to the warmer waters of Mexico and California and gives birth to her calf in places like Bahia Magdalena Bay in Baja California Sur. Gray whales come to Mexico between January and March every year, and scientists from the Investigation of Marine Mammals program of the Autonomous University of Baja California Sur monitor their numbers every year. The gray whales are also important for the tourism industry that provides jobs to the local community who will otherwise depend on fishing. However, in recent years, the number of mothers with calves has decreased dramatically, possibly because of global warming. Gray whales are more sensitive to high temperatures than other species, such as the humpback whale. They prefer waters between 17 and 23 degrees, so they stay in the northern part of the country. Changes in ocean conditions may also result in less food for the whales in the Arctic. Very thin whales cannot reproduce and many die. This year, record numbers of 91 stranded whales have been reported in the Mexican coasts. Therefore, keeping our planet cool by reducing emissions and mitigating climate change is crucial to save our marine life and prevent the extinction of sensitive species like the amazing great whales.
Okay, so I'm gonna take advantage of this video to let you know that before I started guiding the trips with NatHab, I was doing the research monitoring during 2019, first as a volunteer, then in 2020 and in 2023 as a field coordinator in Magdalena Bay, which is one of the Baja lagoons. So that gives me a little bit of the perspective of everything that has been going on exactly since I started knowing the gray whales, all of this process that started happening. So basically, NOAA Fisheries declared what is called an unusually mortality event, which what it means is that we had higher strandings than the natural, let's say, like the norm, or it's normal that we have some strandings because of natural reasons, diseases of whales that get stranded on shore and die. But the numbers were too high, so something was going on back then, right? Here you see a little bit about is Alaska, Canada, United States, and Mexico. You can see it like a little bit on the side, and you see all the strandings in 2019 was 149. That's 11 times the average of roughly 15 strandings annually, right? So it's a lot. And when we count together all what happened since 2019 to 2023, it was almost 500 stranded whales along the coast, right? So back then in that year, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know why it was happening. So what happened is that NOAA Fisheries actually send us money and gear and training for so that people here in Mexico and all along the coast could research what was going on with the whales. This unusual mortality event not only showed us that there were strandings of the gray whales, but the whole population had a lot of a setback. Not only strandings, but we also saw that the number of moms and calf was decreasing. We also saw changes in the body conditions of the whales that arrived at the lagoon, and yeah, basically those three aspects were the main ones that were showing us that this population was a little bit struggling. So this is not the normal picture that we use to assess body condition, but I think it's a nice picture that shows you exactly what we're looking for when we talk about the body condition of a whale. Here, all the pictures that I'm showing throughout the presentation are taken from last season, and this picture, it just shows you how I would love to see each and every single whale that we see in the lagoons. You can see it's from the front, okay? So this is the head, and you see how fat she is. She's just super healthy, fat, round, and you can see that from the head to the rest of the body, there is a straight line to the back. So it's just how it should be, because it shows you that she has a lot of fat stored. Remember that when they come to the lagoons, they are not feeding, right? So they need to have those reservoirs of fat that they gain in the north part of their migration to account for the months that they're going to spend at the lagoons without feeding, right? And this is a picture of a different whale and a different angle, but I think it's pretty much clear. And you can see that this whale doesn't have a good body condition. You can see, comparing with the other one, you can see the scapula bone here, and you can see this depression compared to the other one that has a very straight line, right? And you even can see where the neck should be. You see a little bit of the depressions. That means that she doesn't have enough fat storage in her body, right? Um, so yeah, it's I think it's pretty obvious to see it. And so what we started doing was accounting for the body condition of the whales since 2019 onwards. We started doing it very systematically in the lagoons to see what was going on and to see the proportions. Right? It was very interesting in the scientific aspect, because when they started doing the drone footage, it was more to check about the transfer of energy from the mom to the calf. And when they started doing that, they realized, oh, we can also measure the body condition, right? So it was a secondary thing that started, but that became really important because of what was going on. So the technology was already there, and we were all going to use it for one thing and ended up using it for another thing different, right? So here you can see from an aerial view the good, the fair, and the poor condition. But also when we do photo identification of the whales, we can see from not necessarily with a drone, but from the boat, we can see when we take the picture, we also take a picture of the head and we can check the body condition, right? And so here what you can see is that we started having more whales with poor body condition or with fair body condition, right? During these years, 2019, 2020. And then it's just started going down. This is single whales, by the way. But in 2025, we had a little bit of a comeback of these poor condition numbers, right? So we in 2023, NOAA declared that the UME was over, but still we had like a positive or normal year. 2024 wasn't so bad, but in 2025 was a little bit more, right? And here on the lower part of the graph, you can see the moms and calf. And it's interesting because you see, and there is no moms and calves with poor body condition, maybe with fair, but most of them are in good condition. So that's a little bit strange, right? So I'll let you think about it for a little bit. And it actually looks like it's good, but the thing is that we don't have moms in poor body condition because you can't have them. They're not in the graph because they're not there. What started happening is that we started having less and less moms and calf. So if you have a baby, is because you were able to feed enough to carry on with the pregnancy, and when you arrive to the lagoon, then you have a condition that allows you to fulfill the whole cycle, right? So that's why you don't see them in the graph. So what we started realizing with this is that there were probably abortions and the a miscarriage of the moms that were pregnant from the previous year, right? So they started reproducing less, and they started having less and less calves, right? Why was this happening? Okay, so we have here a little bit of the sea ice extent. At the beginning, we thought that there was problems with maybe a toxin, maybe something was going on with the food, but definitely what's going on is climate change, and climate change is actually affecting the ecosystem where they feed, right? So here you can see the September median extent of the ice edge in the Arctic, and this was before 2010. We had this mean average, and right now we have much less. So the mean average of the sea ice extent is going down. At the beginning, we thought that that could be good because they have more access to the food, but at the same time, it's generating oceanic changes that is not allowing for them to have enough food. So basically, we have these two scenarios where when you have sufficient ice extent, the sun is generating algae here that are falling to the ground, and these algae, all these particles, are feeding the amphipods of which the whale feeds, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. But if you start having less and less ice, what you have is more wind, you have more circulation of the water column, you don't have enough particles that allow these amphipods to generate their tubes. So you start having less and less biomass of amphipods, and then you have less food and less proteic food, lipid content, good lipid content of food for the gray whales. And that's why we see this other scenario where they are more skinny, because they are having to travel more and more to be able to feed the same way as they did before, right? So we see here, this actually happened one time before in the past, and the whales rebounded pretty good. So here you can see in 99, 20,000, we had this UME, but we didn't did all this research that we're doing right now. I mean, we had some calculations of the abundance. So here you see the abundance of the whales that are going southbound, right? That, like, they're going to the Baja lagoons. This is done in Central California with viewers, and then they do an estimate that they extrapolate the number that they saw. And so this is a timeline that shows you a little bit of the abundance that has been calculated each year the same way. So this is very important, that shows us the trend of the population. And as I was saying before, they did have a rebounds of the population here, but then in 2019 happened the UME again, and it generated this low on the abundance, right? We had, as I mentioned, a little bit of a turnover on 2024, but unfortunately 2025 was low again. If you see the lower part of the graph, you can see here that we also have here the calves that are born annually. They counted also in Central California. They counted when they're going back up. So the ones that were born in the lagoons are going back up, so northbound. And here we see the same trend, right? We see that there was this low in the number of calves, and then they rebounded, and then they are struggling again, right? So 2024 was a year that we thought that things were going better, but 2025 shows us that maybe the UME is not over, or it's over, but the whales are struggling to go back up. The whales are struggling to rebound from this thing that happened, this phenomenon, right? So this is the study of the population, and here we have the numbers that we counted, or the researchers at San Ignacio Lagoon counted during this year. And you can see that we had very low numbers of moms and calves. The total was 6, but the moms and calf enter and go outside of the lagoon. So at the same time, we only had a peak of 4 moms and calves and around 100 whales. Remember that this is only in San Ignacio Lagoon, so we also need to account for the other lagoons, right? What's interesting about this is that you would say, oh, this is okay, they're struggling, this is very hard. However, because of the way that San Ignacio Lagoon is, we had the opportunity as tourism industry to see almost all of the moms and calves that were in San Ignacio Lagoon at that moment, right? The lagoon is not so big. So what happens is that they are moving inside and out. They have a protected area where their whale watch vessels cannot go, the boats. But still they're moving around each day. It's a very dynamic place with the tides. So the gray whales are actually moving around. And in one Sunday, actually, we saw 2 different calves. So explaining all of this to the people makes them realize how special it was, the calf that we were seeing and the moms that we were seeing, because this means that these moms and calf, this mom made it, she fed enough on the Arctic, came all the way pregnant from last year, and is having her baby right now, and they stay in the lagoon. At least this year they stayed like in average 29 days, which is a lot, like the whole month in the lagoon, these moms and calf, right? So this shows you how important the lagoons are for the survival and for the growing of these calves. So right now, each and any of these moms and calf are super special, and we get we are super lucky to see them. So it just made it a lot of more special. I don't know if there is any of the people that did the trips with me this year, but we did have some amazing encounters. The whales looked so relaxed, let's say, and were playful, and so we had close encounters as always. So it's just I wanted to say it like a phrase, like you know those phrases that say a bad day at the sea is better than any day at the office. But then for me, it's impossible to even say the word bad when we're doing whale watching. It's just it's not like there is no bad whale watching in Baja lagoons. I mean, we only have like uh, times where we have more, let's say, slower movement of the whales, and then we have times when it's just amazing. And another important thing about this is that it's important for the tourism to have several whale watch trips um, during the period that you travel. So if you go as a traveler to do whale watching, you need to always do more than just one whale watch. You need to do at least 2 or 3, because you're going to see different things in all of the different trips. And it doesn't depend even on the population. It depends on the time of the day, on the tides, on the weather, on so many things. So this just shows you that tourism needs to be done in the ecotourism way that I'm going to explain a little bit more. So so for us it was an amazing season. And as okay, so as I was mentioning, going a little bit to this, we have these lagoons. As I mentioned, we have 3 different lagoons. I always worked as researcher in Magdalena Bay, and now I'm doing the trips in San Ignacio. And then we have Escamons Lagoon. So we have different lagoons, but then what happens with the gray whales? Where what you can see here a little bit is that San Ignacio Lagoon and Escamons Lagoon, which is not shown here, is very important for the moms and calf. So here in orange you can see the moms and calf, and in blue you can see the single ones, right? So you can see a little bit in San Ignacio Lagoon how the single ones use the lagoon, as I was telling you, the moms go all the way inside a little bit more. So they are transiting throughout the whole lagoon during the 30 days that they averagely stay, right? And then if you see Magdalena Bay, you can see here that the moms and calf are staying more in the north part. And then we have more of the adults that are in this central part of the complex. So this part is more for the mating, and this part is more for the juveniles. So here in green, you see the juveniles. This what I was telling you before, that every whale, every gray whale migrates, and we don't really know why the young ones migrate, because there's no objective, let's say, not and not any goal to come here, but to maybe just rest and see what the other whales are doing, and just maybe learn to be a whale, right? So all of this is things that we discuss about in the trips, because it's so interesting, and because we can study them year after year, we have all this information about it. But here the important thing is, how important is the lagoons for the moms and calf. Definitely, if there is a place where you can see, sorry, the train's passing by. Here's a place where you can see the importance of the lagoons for different class ages, different class and different ages of whales, right? In this one, what I really like about this one is a whale that was tagged in the Baja lagoons during February, and you can see all her migration in March. You see in April where she is, and then you see in May and in June when it arrives to the summer feeding area, right? But take a closer look at what happens here. Remember, I said there were 3 lagoons, so you can see that in February she was in the southernmost lagoon, and then she went to San Ignacio, and then she did a little stop here in March in Scammons Lagoon. So in February she was here, and in March she was in the other lagoon. So the same whale uses the 3 lagoons, right? It's like as stop points to rest, or to see if she finds a mate, if it's a male that it's or a female that are reproductive. So this just shows you that we have a very dynamic system where we can have maybe 50 or 100 whales in San Ignacio Lagoon that just enter and come and go. So each day is super different throughout the season. And this you can also see it with photo identification, right? But here is very, very clear with this tagging. So that's why I'm showing this image, because I think it's really, really explains a lot. Um, and yes, San Ignacio is the one that we use for the NatHab trips. It's very amazing. It's very small. Of the 3, yeah, I think it's the smallest. And actually, we have a whale watch area that you see here. And this is where I wanted to finally arrive on the second lesson that the gray whales have taught me. And this that I was telling you, that it's not the same to talk about ecotourism than to talk about nature-based tourism. So nature-based tourism is just going to see wildlife, whereas ecotourism, you have to have income that comes to the local communities. You have to have the less impact, and even a positive impact on the wildlife that you're seeing. And this is, I think, San Ignacio is one of those examples where true ecotourism probably exists, because it's not only me that I say it, but if you go to the International Whaling Commission and you go to the Whale Watch Handbook that they have, you have different cases of success, and Laguna San Ignacio is a success in the tourism area. Because it allows the livelihood of the communities, the fishing communities that we have here. We have a very close connection to the local fishermen that we have here. They stop fishing when we have the whale season, and we have this place is a natural reserve, it's a biosphere reserve, and we have an etiquette and a way of approaching to the whales, so that even if they are struggling as a population, we are not interfering with them, and we are having the best experience possible, but without disturbing them, and always thinking about their welfare as well. So this technique has existed since more than 20 years, and it has been proposed by the locals itself, actually. And so they have this system where we have a certain amount of votes. I think it's 19 votes per whale watch trip, and you have to switch, and you can only do, each company can only do 2 whale watch trips per day. So that allows for this small area to not be crowded by boats, and to allow the best whale watch experience possible, right? So yeah, and this is just something that has been working a lot, and is very special. So that's one another lesson. Another lesson that I learned from this species is that they are not only charismatic, but they are something that we call umbrella species. While we're doing whale watching, even though this trip is very one species centered, which is the gray whales, of course, other things are happening, right? If you are a bird watcher or a photographer, you probably notice things while you're there, not only the whales, right? But what happens is that this place got protected, maybe because of the whales, but it got protected so much more stuff. And that's why we call umbrella species, because they act like an umbrella, protecting everything that's under that thing, right? So we're not only protecting the whales, but we're protecting this Laguna San Ignacio ecosystem, which is amazing. It has the mangroves, it has dunes, it has all these birds. We're gonna see a little bit about it in some pictures that I have. But yeah, basically, the protection of the lagoon started like in the 70s. In the 72, Scammons Lagoon got protected as a refuge for the whales. Then on the 79, I think San Ignacio got included, but then it got protected in 1988 as a biosphere reserve, right? And then continued also as a bird Ramsar site, which is a place that needs to be conserved because of the amount of species that you have there. So yeah, these are just some of the pictures that we take when we're not doing whale watching, which is very little short time, maybe. But Western sandpipers, you can see here. We can also see other marine mammals like the bottlenose dolphins. Sometimes we see sea lions too get inside of the lagoon. This species has also been photo identified. There are at least 300 different individuals, but of course we don't see them at the same time. But there is a nice pod that we sometimes see during the whale watch trips. Another thing is the intertidal. Well, I would love to give a talk about intertidals other time, but the intertidal is such a fascinating ecosystem. We have all these birds that are associated with it, like the snowy egret. When the tide goes down, there's a lot of snails and stuff that just feed another ecosystem, right? So all of this is protected. Of course, the osprey. The osprey is one of my favorite birds of prey, because whenever I see it, I just know I'm around whales. Like I mean, they are also distributed a little bit more south than the whale lagoons. But the first time I met them was in the whale lagoons. So they always remind me of whales, and they're just such a fantastic animal. And they actually have the hatching around March. So when we are there, we might see the eggs hatching, right? Um, so yeah, if you pay a little bit attention, also you have opportunities for landscape photography. We have the sunsets, the amazing sunsets here at the camp. And we have the intertidal, as I mentioned. We have stargazing. There's just so many things around the whales that at first maybe I didn't pay so much attention because I'm very well focused, like this trip. But if you pay enough attention and through time, you realize how much stuff there is around them, right? And so that takes me a little bit to the fourth lesson, and almost the last one, is the power of the local. So here you can see, on the right, we have the Scammons Lagoon has a company that is of salt, salt preparation, industrial salt. So here you see a little bit of the ponds where they do the evaporation of the salt, and this is a view a little bit from space, let's say, or from top. And here you see San Ignacio Lagoon without the industrial salt production. The thing here is that this company wanted to expand during the 90s, and what actually stopped this from happening was the local people. Even though there was researchers already in the lagoon doing the research of the whales, um, the ones that found out about what was going on, that this company wanted to expand from Escamons Lagoon to San Ignacio Lagoon, was Pachico, who was a fisherman that was doing whale watch trips and fishing. And so he is the one that warned the scientists. And then the scientists and all the community went and created this massive campaign. Imagine in the 90s. So it was a very big international campaign that took made that the president of Mexico back then went to see the lagoon, to see what's all the fuss about, let's say. He was like, what's going on? Why is there so much movement and so much things going on? So he went and he did a whale watch trip. And of course, that helped turn a little bit the balance to favor the desire of the locals. The desire of the locals was that they didn't want this development to happen, that the how do you say, the MIA, the environmental study that you do, was not complete, so they had to do it again, and when they did it again, it was canceled, right? So this shows you that this place is not only a place of wildlife, and it's very wild, yes, but you have people that live there and that depend on this place for fishing, for the tourism industry. And if it weren't for them, the landscape that we have right now when we do the trips would be much different. And remember, I mentioned that San Ignacio is much smaller than Scammons Lagoon. So I think it would have been, probably would have changed the dynamic of the lagoon so much, because of the tides, because of these islands that you have here. If you just put a big infrastructure over there, I don't know what would have happened with the whales. I don't have like the result that would have happened. Like, you need to model it, right? But definitely, I don't think it would have been a good addition to this landscape, right? And so here, as I mentioned, the intertidal, and I mentioned a little bit about the fishermen, you can hear a lot of different stories about what they fish and how they learned of the balances because of mistakes they made with some species, and then now they're trying to not make those mistakes. So even though this trip that we do is very one species centered, it's also very cultural. But not Mexico, Central Mexico cultural. You just find out about more about the local culture of Baja, which is totally different. If you have been to Mexico, but you haven't been to Baja, you haven't. It's just two different things, right? And and so for me, it's so nice because we are there to give them the voice that they want to express, right? Here is a picture that they took of me, just translating all the knowledge that the locals have. Here she is explaining about an oyster, a very big oyster that they are farming in San Ignacio Lagoon, and all the process that happens there. And so the knowledge is on her, and just because she's just practicing her English, so I was there just to help her translate all the the pride, the proud that she has of working there and even being a diver on those facilities, right? So that takes me to a little bit to the final lesson that I've learned from these gray whale trips. That is not just that each individual of the whales count, like each calf that we see just counts, but also each of us as individuals, as human individuals, count in this not only trips but in these experiences. This is a place where maybe we will find the solutions, and I want to hear, hope you have some reflections on everything that I have just been saying, because here we just exchange our stories, and hopefully where everything that I just explained about my story and how it took me to this and how it made me learn all of this, it just comes out to the importance of the stories of each individual, right? Maybe the solutions are not very easy, but maybe it will come from each and every story that us as individuals have. um, so yeah, I think those are the lessons that I have learned through these years with the gray whales. Future opportunities about this. I just feel so lucky. Actually, I mentioned that this was going to be a very personal presentation. I feel very lucky that I found, or that Natural Habitat Adventures found me, because I think it all comes together to this, to the importance that these tourism companies are spreading the word on what true ecotourism is, which is supporting the local communities. That just needs to come hand in hand with the conservation. In NAHAB, we always talk about conservation through travel. So it's one way to do it. And definitely, one of the amazing things that this company has is that it offsets the carbon emissions, which is something that we need to consider when we're traveling. But also the support of the local communities and the ethics with the wildlife that is also brought by the locals, and how we partner with the locals, right? And yeah, hopefully with all of this, raise awareness on the problems, and maybe we can find the solutions by talking to each other. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Here I leave the link of the trips. These are my dates that I have for next year. I'm very excited. I can't wait. And also we have one women's journey, and also there are more dates at the website. Not necessarily, if you hated my voice, you can go to the ones that are not. And there's my email for whatever questions you have. But if you have questions right now, thank you so much for listening to me. And yeah, over to you, Brooke.
Thank you so much, Maru. That was so fascinating. And thanks for letting us enter your world and something deeply personal to you. I knew this was going to be an amazing talk, and it went beyond my expectations. So thank you. All right, everybody, we have about 7 or 8 minutes left with Maru. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and we will see how many we can get through until the top of the hour. All right, Maru. First, let's start with the predation question. Can anything, or does anything, predate on adult gray whales?
Well, yes, actually, the killer whales, the orcas, better said, the orcas, sometimes try to take out adult whales, not only gray whales, but actually blue adult whales. So because they hunt as a group and they hunt in a pod, there can be one of the predators of the gray whales. And normally, we would actually lose, according to the statistics, we would actually lose 1/3 of the newborn calves of Baja to killer whale attacks when they are going north. I don't know what's going on with this right now with with the population being so little, maybe the orcas switch to other. Um, but yeah, definitely those are the main and the only predators. And for gray whales, it's interesting that they don't have as much of a problem with entanglement as other species. There definitely is a problem with human related activities, but it's not something that changes their population status as these natural variations that we're having with climate change.
Great, thank you. I'm actually in
Mhm.
Alaska right now and I saw my first orca pod and it was
Mm,
incredible. So
nice.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's so, oh, wow, are they special creatures?
Yes.
Okay, next. Are there any other whales that visit the lagoon or is it just gray whales?
That's a good question. Actually, no. The humpback whales, as I showed in the video, they go a little bit more to the south. And this year we had the gray whales actually get inside the Gulf of California, but normally it's just too shallow for other species of whales to get in. We do have the bottlenose dolphins, as I mentioned, and only 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right now, we had one time that the pod of orcas entered, but they're not whales, they're odontocetes. They got in the lagoon and they actually hunted a dolphin, but they didn't do anything to the gray whales. So as of mysticets, baleen whales, only the gray whales get inside of the lagoon, which makes the lagoons so special for this particular species, right? Mhm.
Great, thank you so much for that. Next,
Mhm.
if climate change is one of the major problems for gray whales, how can travelers help with such a big issue?
Ooh, yeah, that's the big thing that I want to discuss and talk with each and every traveler or person that I've met. But definitely, as I mentioned, this offsetting of carbon emissions, like some companies do really helps a lot. Um, but we need to think of ourselves not only as travelers but just as regular citizens. We need to offset and diminish our carbon emissions, so definitely anything that you can do for conservation in general or for the environment. That means using public transport, riding bikes, talking to other people, raising awareness of this problem, talking to your authorities or your, it depends on where you live. There are probably things that you can do and act to help mitigate climate change, which of course I know it generates there's even I don't know if it's a syndrome that is called eco anxiety. I think I have that. But what helps me a lot with thinking about these big issues is that we need to act locally, right? We need to do our part in our everyday life and as travelers as well. But if each of us is doing something, I think that could generate a change. But definitely, we need to be very active on this thing.
Yes, that was a fantastic answer. Thank you, Maru.
Mhm.
Next, let's go to the trip itself. How do these whales react to the boats? What is the interaction between people who happen to be on the boats and the whales? Are they ever aggressive, or what is their general behavior during the trip?
Yeah. No, they're definitely never aggressive. I didn't explain a lot about this, but this is one species that doesn't get scared by by the sound of the motor of the boat, which other species do. There are some species that are more shy. This one is one that not only doesn't get disturbed, it looks like it doesn't even care, or it even uh, calls the attention of some individuals. So some of them will just ignore you and continue traveling, and some of them will arrive and start being a little friendly, like curious, right? So definitely, I've never seen any aggressive behavior. These are very gentle giants, as the word says, and it's just they're very curious. And if given enough conditions and given enough uh, how do you say, the times, if they get very used to the presence of the boats, and some of them might come close to the boat. Yeah, that is something that can happen. And if you go several times, it's very high chance that it will happen at least once. So they're amazing, amazing, curious creatures. Yeah. Mhm.
Great, thank you. We are having a couple questions about the trips themselves. And so, if anybody is interested in joining Maru in Baja, our amazing adventure specialist team would be more than happy to answer any additional questions you have about the trip and maybe check on some availability for you. So, we would love to get you down there and to experience this phenomenal wildlife experience yourself. But with that, Maru, I will close the Q&A portion of the webinar and turn it back to you for any last closing comments.
No, I think thank you very much for listening. I think it was a very nice way of showing you my love for the whales, and I definitely hope to see you in the next trips next season. Mhm. Thank you.
Absolutely. We need to get more people down there and support the whales and your work and conservation in the area. So, again, Maru, thank you for sharing your wonderful knowledge with us. And I would like to thank everyone who tuned in. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we'll have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.